Deafrowe with Deafrowe closed caption, and I'm back again with another review. And this time it's going to be the 1990 George A. Romero slash Tom Savini directed movie, Night of the Living Dead, the only remake approved by George A. Romero. So let's get started. 1990, Night of the Living Dead, starring Tony Todd as Ben, Patricia Tallman as Barbara, and then Tom Talls as Harry Cooper, McKee Anderson as Helen Cooper, William Butler as Tom, Carrie Finneran as Judy, Bill Moseley as Johnny. So for the first time, we have Johnny as a credited character in this movie. Whereas, in the original one, they didn't credit the original actor for Johnny, which I still don't understand that, but I guess it is what it is. And this movie came out of the whole idea of trying to recoup some of his money from Night of the Living Dead, since the whole copyright notice thing on the original Night of the Living Dead messed up any proceeds that Romero could have received from the original movie. So he decided to convince Savini to do a remake that was, basically like the original, but different in certain aspects of this. And that's one of the reasons I think I like this movie almost equal to the original, because this movie does have certain elements that are completely different from the original movie, and some that are completely the same, exactly the same, whatever you want to call it. And Savini, he had to scale back his gore effects on this movie a little bit, because it couldn't be like Day of the Dead, where he was, that's peak gore makeup effects for Savini, in my opinion. And it couldn't be like that because, for one, these zombies aren't in the same decomposition stages as they were in Day of the Dead, because Day of the Dead is like much later after Night of the Living Dead, which is what this is a remake of. So the zombies aren't going to have that same decomposition as they would in the Day of the Dead, and it would be this grody looking, as you can see here with some of these. Some of them do look bad, as you can tell from this guy here. Let's see if I can get him in there. Yeah, this guy's all grody looking. He just comes in and starts attacking Johnny. Not Johnny, and not, just like in the original movie, Johnny hits his head on the one of the tombstones. And he's knocked out cold, or pretty much dead, probably. And she gets into the car, just like in the original. But in this one, she kind of just like backs up into a tree. Let's see if I can find that shot. Yeah, backs up into a tree. Now, I'm a little bit into cars, and I wish they would have used like the old Pontiac like they did in the original movie. But I can understand why they didn't want to do it, because I think that was a Pontiac Tempest, two-door Tempest, and they didn't want to mess up another classic car, so they just used a diesel Mercedes, it looks like, and backed it into a tree instead of, where in the original she kind of sideswipes a tree and it closes the door in on her. She couldn't get off the driver's side anymore. She had to climb out the other side. Anyway, she crashes the car because she doesn't have the keys, just like the original, and just releases the emergency brake, and she just goes right on down the hill. Just backs right into that tree there, and then she gets out and makes it to this house here. She gets into this house, and then she finds stuff she didn't want to find. Zombies in there, and that's she's attacked by. I think she sees the dead body up there, and immediately tries to get out of the house because, hey, I don't want to be stuck in here with those things. And of course, here comes Ben, which is Tony Todd's character, which I love that he chose Tony Todd for this role, coming off, all the Candyman, or going into the Candyman movies. Tony Todd is an exceptional actor, in my opinion, and I'm glad that he chose him for this role. I love this guy's voice. He's awesome, dude. There we go, further in. Oh, look who just kind of sprung up. one of the original owners of the house. Like, get off my land. But no, they pretty much take him out with a crowbar to the head. Like I said, the effects are awesome. I mean, it's just like, but like Savini had to scale it down just a little bit to make it a little more believable for the era, or in position of the timeline of Night of the Living Dead, Dawn, and Day. So they were able to kill that zombie finally with a crowbar, I think. They wrap him up in a, I think they wrap him up in a rug and throw him outside. And she's kind of like standing guard with like a poker, fireplace poker, trying to make sure nothing sneaks up on him. And they're talking about what's going on, and he's trying to get information out of her, but she's not really talking all that much at this point. She's still kind of in shock. And that's one thing that I do like that Savini did in this movie, is Barbara doesn't stay in shock for the entirety of the movie like she did in the original. Now, in the original, she doesn't stay in shock the whole time, but she is in a form of shock the whole time. It's not like it goes from extreme to mediocre and then back to extreme when all the zombies start coming in there, and she just like, oh, she sees Johnny and just lets everything go to shit and she dies. So yeah, the original, she was in some form of shock the whole time, whereas this one she starts to, wake up out of the shock. And of course they're poking around at the dude they just killed with a crowbar. I think at some point they just get rid of that body. They don't just leave him in there in the living room. Of course, there's that body upstairs too that they had to get rid of. That was the hand just hanging off the railing. So they had to get rid of those, and then finally the folk come out of the basement. It's the asshole in chief here. That would be Mr. Harry Cooper, the one that tries to control the situation, but ends up being a coward the whole time. He's got a daughter downstairs that's been bit, but he ain't really telling anybody all about that because he thinks he's protecting her when really he's gonna mess it up for everybody. And of course, there's Tom. William Butler, as he's like and just like the original movie, he's like the nephew of the people that own that house, and he knows how to get that pump and everything with the gas. But he doesn't know where the keys are or where they could be, so that's what they're trying to figure out. So then they're just discussing that whole situation, and like, why didn't you let us downstairs when you heard all the commotion up here? Like, we wasn't sure. Excuses, but basically Mr. Cooper being a coward that he is. Of course, they clash the entire time. And of course, he gets, Tom to help him out with boarding up the house. And he figures at some point the house was undergoing some type of or a renovation of a sort. And they figure out that some of the doors they can't use because they're pretty much like hollow. They're just interior decorative doors. They're not really, whereas most of your older houses, if they're not totally renovated like this, they still have the original doors and they're solid wood throughout the whole house. And he figures that out. I'm going to say, right in here somewhere. Well, this is where there you go. So he figures out that some of these doors are pretty much useless. It can't be used for anything. They find a TV and they bring it downstairs to hook it up and see if they can't get the broadcast. She's rummaging through stuff. She's starting to come out of the whole shock thing, and then she's got the gun and she's gaining, confidence in herself with how she's going to deal with this whole thing. While everybody else is still on the offensive, I guess you could say. Barbara is switching slowly more to the defensive, which is something that was not done in the original movie at all. So that's one of the things I kind of like. And of course, as he's putting up a door at the window, one of them's trying to get in, and she takes a shot at him. And she's trying to explain to him. She's like, "Look, you can't. They're easy to kill. You just got to shoot them in the head." And yeah, this. Of course, she sees all of them outside, and she's like, "They all move the same speed." And then that's when they decide, "Hey, if we get to that gas pump, we can, get the gas." But they don't have the key, and old dude does something extremely stupid because he got a set of keys, but it ended up being the wrong set of keys, or for whatever reason. He decides, "Hey, let's not race back to the house. I got to get this gas, get it now." He's not really thinking. He's panicking, and of course, he shoots at the gas pump, and obviously this happens, and it blows the shit out of everything. Not a good way to go out in a movie if you're the idiot that shot the gas pump. It's like, you're that one guy that shot at a gas pump. Anyway, so we get going. He's got to go back to the house now, and of course, old dude didn't want to let him in. They get back in, and she gets is a cop that comes in. They let him in and kill him real quick because he's a zombie. And she grabs the holster and with all the bullets on it, and then also the revolver. And decides to use it for herself. And then of course, old dude jackass is going to the attic now because he thinks everything's going to shit down there. So now he don't want to deal with. At this point, I think the mother and the daughter had turned to a zombie at this point. So at this point in the game, and pretty much bit the mother. So they're dead in the basement, and they have a little shootout between each other because he's arguing with him. He gets shot in the belly, and Ben, Tony Todd's character, gets shot closer to the heart on the shoulder. And they go their separate ways, and since neither one of them can really walk fast enough to get past the zombies because they're both shot, he goes to the attic, and Tony Todd's character goes to the basement. And Patricia Tallman's character, Barbara, she's like, "Well, I'm just going to walk through this and go get some help for you guys because you're obviously not capable of doing the right thing. Y'all argued and ended up killing yourself with this crap." So she gets out there and she realizes she can just walk right through these folks. And I could say this, I mean, if the zombies are moving slow and you're out in the open country, obviously it's going to be easier to get around them. You got wide open spaces to get around them. Whereas, like, if you're in a city, you have a limited amount of space to move around, and those zombies, even though they're moving slow, they could be right up on you in a heartbeat, and you would never know. So this makes more sense to me in the country setting like this, was because you're wide open. You ain't. So now all the zombies have gotten in the house. Tony Todd's character is in the basement. The old asshole dude's in the attic, and of course his character's kind of bleeding, and he's not knowing what to do, and he's in the basement. And all these scenes like they do in the original movie, where them outside just eating up whatever food's out there. And of course he's stuck there. She's trying to find a truck, and she comes across these redneck dudes who've been going around pretty much shooting up whatever they find. Like I said, in the country, you can move around a lot easier than you can in the city. And you're not, but she finally makes it back with those group of people to that house, because they're basically just doing like a sweep through the county and shooting up anything that's a zombie and trying to clean up the town, I guess you could say. And they finally make it to her area where she came from, and she makes it back to that house. And they make it back into that house, and she realizes when they open that door to the basement, they have to cut it open because apparently, obviously he couldn't open the door himself because he had died from his wounds and turned into a zombie. So they end up shooting him. An old dude from the attic comes down and say, "Oh, you came back. You came back." And she's like, "Fool, you don't deserve to live." And so she shoots him, like, right here. Like, hell no, dude. Boom. And then it's like, you're not. Hell no. You ain't coming back with us. Asshole, you got my friend killed. Shot him in the shoulder. And now he bled out. So, in my opinion, I like this Night of the Living Dead just as much as the original Night of the Living Dead. Because this was filmed in 1990, and it was only 5 years after Day of the Dead and Savini's peak. And from what I understand, this film was heavily edited to keep it out of an X rating. And I would love I love to see a Savini edit of this movie. I would buy the hell out of that if he was able to get a hold of this movie and do his own edit with some of the original footage and add back in the scenes that he was told to take out. Because from what I understand, Savini has said that 40% of his ideas made it into the final film. Because Romero was never really on the set, and so he had a lot of clashes with producers over all the stuff. And I think if Romero had been on the set with him, he probably would have won a lot of those clashes. So he described it as the worst nightmare of his life, and I can understand that because you're trying to make at best a very cool remake of your best friend's movie. I mean, Savini had been doing a lot of work for Romero. Romero relied a lot on Savini, and for that reason alone, I enjoy this movie. I like it just as much as the original, and I give it the same rating as the original. You can see that in the description below. But it's going to be the same as the original movie for me, because Romero had a lot to do with it, and then had Savini come in and direct it for him, and convinced Savini to do that. Savini didn't want to do it, and probably had good reasons not to do it because he knew the kind of crap he would have to deal with in trying to create this film the way he wanted to. And like, even with him only getting 40% of his ideas on film, he still had to edit some of his stuff out on top of that. So, like I said, I would love to see a Savini edit of this movie. I would love to see that film and see how it plays out in Savini's, call it a Savini cut of Night of the Living Dead, 1990. So, without further ado, that's my review. And, I guess I'll catch you out on the edge of another review. Deafrowe, out.